to move to the north. Looks like just a lone lightning strike, not a lot of lightning. Most of that has been on the northern end of where that possible rotation is. Not a lot of hail. In fact, it looks like this has just started to become a little bit more put together with the possibility of some very small hail. Definitely not severe size hail as of right now. So this is the latest as we continue to monitor these two tornado warnings. If you're just joining us, it's this portion of Monroe County where the radar has indicated that there has been rotation. We haven't had a sighted tornado, but we showed you those two reports just south of there in Lucas County where they had cars flipped and trees damaged, and the folks who reported that suspected that it could have been from a tornado. Of course, with cars flipped, that's definitely something that you would consider. Could be straight line winds, but it would have to be pretty fast for that to happen. So this is the area that we are concerned with. Again, when you look at the actual the winds changing direction, we're not seeing any sort of textbook rotation in here, but there is some as it moves off to the north. I want to show you again, this is the rainfall where we're watching that notch. You can see that right on the right side of 275 where that possible tornado could be right now. We'll stop it here at the last view, and it's this area right here that we would be concerned about to the most in the next few minutes. All right, let me give you a broader scope. I want to look a little bit further around the area. We don't have any other issues right now as we speak. The flash flood watch continues until 4 a.m., and that is for a majority of the area, including Metro Detroit. Some of the heaviest rain right now is starting to move into the southern portion of Wayne County, just sort of butting up against 94. So that's going to become an issue. When we start seeing the heavier rain push into our more urban areas, obviously there's more concrete, a lot more highways, and possibility of some, blocked drains and some issues with drainage. So we'll have to watch that, especially there in that southern end of Wayne County where that rain's really starting to pick up. It's the northern section of Monroe County that we're concerned about for a possible tornado. Radar indicated rotation and damage in northern sections of Ohio right south of our state line that indicate that this definitely could be seeing rotation within this cell. In fact, it's a little bit easier to tell when you're looking at the rainfall, sort of that rotation sort of hooking back on the back side of this cell right. Grab that pencil, and right there, that sort of rotates around, and that's what we're watching, where there's possibility we could be seeing some rotation and a possible tornado in that cell right now. So the actual wind speeds, if we measure them right around that point, not very fast, at least from the radar perspective, 35 miles an hour and changing what we call gate-to-gate shear, which means the change just between a box is 26 miles an hour. So it doesn't look impressive, but nevertheless, if this storm has a history of producing damage, whether or not it was from straight line winds or a tornado, if it was flipping cars in Lucas County, this needs to be respected as it moves into the southern end of Wayne County. Now, that's the extent of the warning. Right now, that Monroe-Wayne County line, that's as far as the warning goes. But as this storm sort of meanders to the north, and it looks like it's sort of moving a little bit more to the east, a little bit more towards 275, we'll have to keep an eye on it and see where it goes from here. So a tornado warning remains in effect until 12:45. That's the box that you see in the center of your screen there. And there's about 15,000 people within that box. This area, which was a smaller portion of what was a larger warning earlier, that remains in effect until 12:30. So we've got about 9 minutes left to go on that warning as we were watching two separate areas of rotation, which right now looks to be consolidated to one, and it looks like it's probably getting to the northern end of that box. We'll stop this at the end of this track, and again you can see this area, this little notch in the precipitation pattern. It could be that area that we are watching, and when you start looking at the wind speeds, there is that change in direction. You see those greens and reds, even though they're not right next to each other in the places that they are, the speeds are not all that impressive. But it still could be enough that there is a tornado out there. Whether or not it's on the ground right now, we don't know, but we should definitely treat it as it is, as if it is. as it moves to the north. So no reports of hail, just 4 live radar indicating there possibly could be some. It would be small if it is, and that's that gray shade that's out there, possibly pea-sized hail north of maybe. Other than that, very little lightning within the area that we're concerned about as far as where there could be a tornado. It is just going to be that rain-wrapped tornado, possibly, towards the northern sections of Monroe County. So right now we're getting to the limits of this tornado warning box that we're concerned with. And we put the radar back on precipitation mode, and we're watching the area where there's not much rain falling as that possible area where we could be seeing some rotation right there. This is just off to the west of 275, and we're starting to get into those areas right now where there's a few more people that are starting to show up in this area. So right there, this town of Carlton, you can see Grafton Road there, Maxwell Road, bounding the town. If you are in Carlton right now, this is the time that you need to be in a basement. Get to the lowest level of your home. If you're in an apartment building and you're on an upper level and you can't get to a lower level, sometimes the best thing to do is just get into an interior stairwell that is on the lowest level of your apartment building that you have access to. That's one of the safer places that you can be as of right now. But if you have a basement, get there and stay there, at least until this storm passes. So we're concerned there with the town of Carlton. As you move north of Newburgh Road, there's the county line. That's where 275 intersects the Monroe-Wayne County line. That could possibly be under the gun. Again, it's this area right here where we're going to be most concerned with. Not very intense rotation signals here, but if there is something going on, it's going to be right there on the west side of 275 as it moves to the north. If you have pictures and you are in a safe position to do so, we would like to see what you have seen in this section of Monroe County. Facebook, Storm Pins, both places that we can take a look at that, and it would be good to share that with friends and neighbors elsewhere as this storm continues to move to the north. It's not moving very fast. It's only moving at about 10 miles per hour. And again, when we ask you for pictures and video, this is only if you're in a safe position to do so. If you are within that tornado warning box, pictures and video should be the last thing you're concerned with right now. You need to be safe from this storm and make sure you and your family stay safe as this starts to move to the north and east extent of Monroe County. So we're sort of zoomed in on this right now. We're going to start looking at some of these other roads. There's Newburgh Road up there, and Briar Hill Road. This is on the east side of 275 now, between 275 and 24. You definitely want to be in your safe place right now, whether it's the basement, whether it's an interior room, and you want to be in somewhere that's away from windows. Damage, debris, some of the biggest concerns with a tornado, even if it doesn't do any sort of structural damage, busted windows can allow a lot of debris to enter your home. So we're going to show you also broaden out here and look at this precipitation pattern again. And you can see that we keep talking about that notch, and there it is right there. That's the area that we are possibly concerned with, which would be centered right on 275 right now and starting to move into the southern end of Wayne County. Now, even though there are reds and greens here on the radar, we don't see any sort of, again, textbook signs of rotation, but there's definitely something to be concerned with as the storm moves to the northeast corner of that box. We'll broaden out here and show you what else is going on throughout the area. It looks like they've pared back the southern end of that warning box, so it's a little bit smaller than it was. Some of those areas that were a little bit closer to the Monroe now not within that warning, but the warning itself is still in effect until 12:45, and that little sole of the shoe down there, that warning in effect until 12:30 on the in the central part of Monroe County, just on the west end of Monroe. So here's where that cell is now. As it continues to sort of move to the north, it's likely moving into Wayne County. Even though Wayne County is not under the warning right now, That's the area that we are watching where there could be rotation, right in that northeast corner of that box. Right there is the area that we're most concerned with. So right along and east of 275, if you're in this area, if you know people who are, because of the hour of the night, because it is 12:30 in the morning, a lot of folks may already be in bed. This is something that you want to call friends, family, that they live in this area and tell them, get to a safe location. And of course, in a home, we've talked about that. Mobile homes are nowhere to be, cars are nowhere to be. You want to get somewhere that has a sturdy foundation and a solid building, and just make sure you're away from windows. Cover your head and wait for this storm to pass. So this is the latest on this potential tornado, this radar indicated tornado that we have been watching move through Monroe County, and it's just about to the northern section, just about to the county line there, as it continues right along 275 and moving north at 10 miles an hour, so at a very slow rate of speed. No reports of damage. We haven't had any reports of a touchdown, and no confirmation that this has actually made it to the ground. The reason I'm zooming out is I want to show you some of these reports that we've gotten in over the last hour or so, and these were just south of the state line. This is in Lucas County, Ohio, Harbor View specifically. Police there say trees blown down and possible damage. They suspect the tornado, at least the people who made that report suspect that it's a tornado. And then you look at this area, this was at 10:15, so this was over 2 hours ago, but there were cars that were flipped over near Brown Road. And so the law enforcement there suspects that also could be from a tornado. And that, coupled with what the Weather Service saw on radar, kind of left them with no other option other than to throw up the tornado warning for portions of Monroe County right now. So that is the precipitation. These are the winds as we speak. And again, the area that we're watching is sort of in this area right here. We don't see these reds and greens sort of tightly coupled up against each other. There's more of a broad area of rotation here. But at any moment, that rotation can tighten, and that spin could cause a funnel cloud or a tornado as it continues to move to the north. Looks like we're starting to see a little bit more, a little faster winds out there, but not by much. 41 miles per hour compared to some of the 30s that we were seeing earlier. I wouldn't put too much stock in the actual speeds of this, because if it's a tornado, it's probably rotating much faster than that. But at least in the radar presentation, it's picking up winds at that level that are a little bit faster than what we were seeing earlier tonight. So that tornado warning, it's 12:30 right now, so that southern end, that second warning, or I should say the first warning, has now completely expired. And the original box has been pared back to a smaller portion of Monroe County that we are concerned with. That remains in effect until 12:45 tonight. The latest update from the National Weather Service was issued at 12:25 this evening, and it said that a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located near Carlton at that time. That was at 12:25, and again, that's moved north since that update, so it's moved a little bit further north of the town of Carlton. So right now we're likely concerned if there is something out there, it's probably in that general area as we speak right now at 12:30. I'll go back to that update because I want to see exactly what they were saying. Again, they say it's radar indicated rotation. There's still no reports of a sighting of this storm. And they remind folks that tornadoes are extremely difficult to see and confirm at night. And that goes without saying. Night, the fact that this has been over a fairly rural area, and the fact that we've seen heavy rain to obscure any possible rotation that's out there. Those are all reasons that you just have to respect the warning and sort of take it on faith that this could be out there, and expect the worst but hope for the best. That's what we're doing right now. So the northern sections of Monroe County still under the possibility of a tornado from that thunderstorm, and it's right there along 275, between 275 and US 24 in the northern section of Monroe County. So if you're a little bit further north of there, again, we talked about the fact that this storm is moving very slowly at 10 miles an hour, almost crawling up through parts of Wayne County, even though you're not under the warning. If you're in Huron Township, if you are downriver, be ready. Make sure you make your tornado precautions now, just in case that you have to take cover as this storm continues to move to the north. Again, there's no warning out for Wayne County, but this is going to be the path, the likely path that this is going to take if that continues to meander to the north over the next 20 minutes or so. So we're continuing to watch that extreme end of Monroe County. And of course, the further north that this storm gets, the more people that are going to be impacted by this cell, more of a populated area, is that right now running through just off to the south of Newburgh Road. There's Carter Road, if you're familiar with these areas that are in Monroe County. Of course, 24 on the right side of your screen. This is the area that we are most concerned with, where there could be a possible rotating thunderstorm that may lead to a tornado. There have been reports of damage in Lucas County, Ohio, which is just south of us, just south of the state line. And again, even though that was about 2 hours ago, this storm system does have the history of producing damage. There was an actual tornado warning a little bit further south of there in north central Ohio a little bit earlier tonight. So this is continuing to move to the north. Wayne County, if you're downriver, Taylor, Allen Park, Woodhaven, heavy rain right now. In fact, some of this rain coming down at a pretty good clip, 1.5 inches per hour there in parts of downriver, 1.5 inches an hour there in Allen Park. Yes, we need the rain, but in some of these areas that haven't seen a lot over the last few weeks, you've got very hard ground, and that rain may be running off rather than soaking in. And that was one of the reasons we have that flash flood watch that's in effect right now until 4 o'clock this morning. So here's the latest on 4 Live radar. Again, you're looking at the reflectivity or the rainfall portion of the radar, and we're continuing to watch that notched area of this storm where there's at least broad rotation and possibly some very tight rotation, which would lead to a funnel cloud or a tornado. This is right along 275 in the northern sections of Monroe County, heading toward Wayne County, right there between 275 and 24. So we'll zoom in a little bit closer to this area. These are the spots that right now you need to be inside in a basement, away from windows, and taking cover. Make sure you cover your head as this storm starts to move through. So I'll show you some of the other areas that are likely going to be affected by this. Some of these are starting to get into some subdivisions up there that are just north of Will Carlton Road, which is the county border or county boundary there, moving into Wayne County. So we don't have a warning for Wayne County right now, but that's where this cell is. It's the area that we're concerned with most is just starting to move towards that county line. So we'll continue to watch that move to the north. No reports of injuries or damage yet, thank goodness. We're going to continue. I know our newsroom is monitoring this and talking to law enforcement across Monroe County and finding out what they're seeing on the ground. But this is not something where we encourage anyone to be outside looking for this. At this time of night, unless it's on top of you, you probably won't see it. Because of night, because of the rain, and because of some of the rural areas, we probably are not going to get a confirmation on this unless it actually hits something and does some damage. So this is the cell as we watch it right now. I want to sort of adjust some of the parameters here on the radar and see if we can see something that maybe a little bit more granular. See if that helps look at some of the structure of the cell. It's not really doing it. So I'm going to put it back to this. Okay, so this is what we're watching right now. The extreme northern end of Monroe County. This area right there at the corner of that tornado warning box. And of course, the warning means a tornado is imminent. It has been sighted, or at least the rotation signal has been sighted on radar. And that's led the National Weather Service to issue the tornado warning for that red shaded boundary in Monroe County. So again, this is the area we're watching. We'll take that radar off, and here it is. The northern sections of Monroe County, fairly sparsely populated area. Within that box, there's only about 15,000 people there, but there's something that we're going to be watching as that moves to the north. And the latest update from the Weather Service was at 12:25 on that warning, and they continue to to show that it is a radar indicated rotation. Still no reports of that tornado actually being out there on the ground. So that's the latest wind speed look, what we call velocity or storm relative velocity. And basically this is just sensing the winds. Which direction are they moving? How fast are they moving? You can see that they are moving away from the radar where it's red, and it's moving inbound where it's green. Now this is well away from the radar site, so it's not shooting as low as it would be if it was a little bit closer to central Oakland County. That's where the radar site is. So this far out, that beam's a little bit higher in the atmosphere, about 3,000 feet or so off the ground. So it's not sort of capturing a lot of stuff that's going on just below that. And that's why we're sort of being abundantly cautious as far as talking about this cell right now. So we'll show you the precipitation. That the notch that was there is not quite as prominent as it was just a few hours ago, or a few minutes ago, I should say. Again, that's the area that we're most concerned with, and that right there in the northeast section of the box, butting right up against the county line now, starting to move into Wayne County. At least the rest of that thunderstorm cell is. Whether or not that rotation is still there, we're going to assume that it is as of right now. So just onto the east side of 275 up towards Will Carlton Road, which is the county line there, and starting to move a little bit further to the north. Of course, this being 12:30 at night, there's less traffic on 275, but if you've been out there at really any time of the night, you know there's always plenty of traffic there on 275. So we're concerned about folks that may be traveling in the area and not sort of paying attention to what's going on, especially if they're not from here. This is now starting to reach the extent of the warning boundary, and so we're going to wait and see whether the Weather Service extends this either further in time or for more real estate, more parts of the area. But right now, Wayne County is not under a tornado warning as this cell continues to move to the north. It is showing less signs of organization. You don't see that notch anymore. It's starting to fill in. Doesn't look like there's necessarily as much rotation. And of course, we haven't seen anything really textbook on the radar signature here in a while. There's some other areas here to the north that we'll have to investigate and keep an eye on. But as far as right now, there's still technically the tornado warning, which is in effect for that northern section of Monroe County until 12:45. So we've got about 5 minutes left on that cell, on that warning in Monroe County. No reports of damage, no reports of injuries. We don't have any ground reports of this actually touching down as of right now, which is good. Let's hope that we don't have any. But you always get concerned this time of night, especially with folks who have already gone to bed and may not have been expecting this. Of course, the biggest hazard that was on our plate today was the heavy rain. And that was what we were most concerned with. That's the flash flood watch. That was sort of job one today. And these thunderstorms, we say it all the time, and sometimes it just sounds like a throwaway line, but any severe thunderstorm can spawn a tornado. And especially in this case, we're just sort of watching this with an abundance of caution right now. That cell starts to move into southern parts of Wayne County. Okay, so we are approaching 12:41 right now. We got about 4 minutes left on that warning. And the heavier rain has started to move north of 94 right now. So even though we haven't seen much in the way of lightning strikes, there's not much in the way of hail out there. As far as the shear goes, we watched that started to pick up a little bit here in Wayne County. So it looks like there's possibly some change in direction. Not enough to cause an additional warning to be issued as of right now, but it's something that we're going to keep an eye on. We'll look right now at that precipitation. And again, it's that heavy rain, Taylor and Allen Park. You're going to be getting some good downpours there within the next 20 minutes or so. So that's the southern end of that cell that we are concerned with. It's kind of falling apart. We don't see much structure on that storm anymore. And as of right now, we're not seeing much rotation. So as likely that warning is going to expire, and then we're going to move on and sort of be concerned with what's going on a little bit further to the north. And this area is possibly of some concern here. This is in Wyandotte, just off to the southeast. You can see that's a pretty bright shade of green, indicating that wind is fairly fast. That's a gate-to-gate shear of 75 miles an hour. That is something that we are definitely concerned about. In fact, that's probably one of the strongest signals of rotation that we have seen so far today. There's no warning out in Wayne County right now, but if you are in the southern end of Wayne County, this is between 75, east of 75, between there and Wyandotte, take shelter. Treat this as a possible rotating thunderstorm as this moves to the north. Again, we don't have a warning out for Wayne County, but I'm very concerned with this area right there. There's Eureka Road. It's moved a little bit further to the north right now, and it looks like that bright green area has sort of gone away. But this is that area that we were concerned with. Right along 75 downriver. If you're anywhere in this area, get away from windows, get to the lowest interior portion of your home, and get to the basement if you can. Looks like some of those wind speeds have picked up there as well. Now they have just issued a tornado warning. That's the area that we were just concerned with. There it is. That box is up, and that is for central Wayne County. This is until 1:15 tonight. That tornado located over Taylor, moving to the northeast at 15 miles an hour. This is again a radar indicated cell, so that was what we were just watching as it moves to the north. So I'm going to take the radar off just briefly to show you the entire warning box. This includes a good chunk of downriver. This is a lot of people in here. In fact, within that red box, that includes 250,000 people, and that is in effect until 1:15 this morning. You see that darker red shade, by the way, that just filled in around that tornado warning. That's a flash flood warning. That just got issued for eastern Monroe and Wayne County until 3:45 in the morning. Now, Doppler indicated totals right now between 1 and 3 inches of rain has already fallen. Flash flooding is expected to begin shortly, and that rain will end from south to north across the area in the next 1 to 3 hours. So we're concerned about two things. Obviously, one is that tornado warning, which has just been posted for areas downriver. That's the brighter red box that's there in the foreground. We're going to show you the storm relative velocity, and you can see that right now. Even though that they were concerned about that area over Taylor, it looks like it's probably moved just a little bit further to the east, probably between Taylor and Allen Park right now. We're going to freeze it in the last frame. We'll start looking at some of those wind speeds in there. There's a couple areas where we could see some spin-ups that we're concerned with there. So if you're anywhere in these areas, get to the lowest level of your home right now. And this is another opportunity. If you do not live in the warned area and you have friends or family there, call them and get them out of bed and let them know that there is a potential tornado in their backyard as we speak. We're now approaching 1 o'clock in the morning, and we know a lot of folks have retired for the night. And this is something that they definitely need to get out of bed and be prepared for. So that is a potential track of what we are watching. Allen Park, Melvindale, Dearborn. We know a lot of these communities. We're starting to get into a very populated area of Metro Detroit as this continues to move to the north. I want to take the track off. Wow. Okay, if you look at this area right there, that just blew up. This is between Dearborn and River Rouge right now. You can see how fast these winds have just started to appear on 4Live radar. I want to interrogate some of those boxes. That's a gate-to-gate shear of 103 miles an hour. That is a likely tornado that is showing up. This is east of 94. You can see that's marked there. There's Miller Road. I want to zoom in just a little bit closer and watch this area. This is right there. You can see Miller Road is on the map right there. There's Eagle Pass. Looks like there's a part of Ford Motor Company property there. And just a little bit further north, there's Rotunda Drive. We know a lot of folks live in this area. That is one of the more intense signals that we have seen on radar tonight. This is east of 94 in the southern end of Dearborn. Take cover immediately. As this storm continues to move to the north, this is a likely tornado. Some of the strongest indication that we have seen tonight so far as this continues to move. And the speeds on these have been generally at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. So as we continue to track this further to the north, this is going to start moving into some even more highly populated areas. Looks like crossing Michigan Avenue, crossing Ford Road. But this is an area that we are very concerned with as of right now. So a tornado warning remains into effect for a good portion of Wayne County until... Okay. That's the flash flood warning that you see on top of there, but that tornado warning is currently in effect for a good portion of Wayne County for at least until 1:15 tonight. They're saying that this is moving to the northeast at 15 miles an hour, so Wyandotte, Dearborn, Greenfield Village, all within the path of the storm. And you can see how these colors are starting to get brighter, an indication that these wind speeds are starting to pick up. I want to look at the reflectivity of the precipitation right now. We're not seeing as much of a hook in some of this as we were seeing earlier, but sometimes on the sort of the boundary portions of these storms, you start getting sort of spins, these waves that start to spin up, and that could be what we're watching right here. In fact, I would generally say there's probably two areas, and now maybe a third that we are watching. This seems to be the most concerning area of rotation here. There possibly could be another one there, and maybe a third around Dearborn. So all of this area, this entire box, we need to be very cautious and very concerned, especially with this area that's in the center of your screen right now. I want to continue to watch this as we zoom in a little bit closer. This is around Allen Park. You see there's Dix Highway. That's 75, and we've been watching. You notice how green these have become. These wind speeds maybe not as fast as what we were seeing earlier, but there's definitely some rotation there, and that could be a possible tornado, even a short-lived one, as we watch this right now. So that tornado warning remains in effect until 1:15 today, this morning. For parts of Wayne County, especially up around Dearborn, River Rouge, Allen Park. You can see this triangle area here. We'll sort of draw a circle around this area right here. If you are within that area, you need to take cover immediately as this storm is continuing to move to the north. We still haven't had any reports of damage, but now that we're in a more densely populated area, there's more targets for this to hit. So we're going to continue to watch this very carefully as this storm moves to the north. This area around Taylor, this is what we were initially concerned about, and it does look like that has moved a little bit further to the northeast. So on the east side of Allen Park, right along 75, heading towards River Rouge. Pretty strong signal of rotation that could be a possible tornado there right now. So we'll keep our eyes on this area in particular. And again, if you've got folks who live here, if you know friends or family that are living around this area that could be in bed right now, call them immediately. Call them, text them, get them on the phone, and at least know that they're up and walking around and are able to stay abreast of what's going on, as we've got a possible tornado in Wayne County moving to the north. There's this area up around Dearborn, not as strong of a signal of rotation, but there definitely could be something here as well that's in the city of Dearborn. If you're there, you definitely need to be taking your tornado precautions now, which means lowest level of your house, interior portions of your home, away from windows, and get to that basement and cover your head if you've got a basement or a lower below ground level that you can get to. So this area of Wayne County continues to be under a tornado warning as we speak until 1:15 tonight. Beyond that, The darker red shades, and I'll pull the radar off briefly so you can see it. The darker red shades, that's a flash flood warning that has been issued. 1 to 3 inches already fallen and more is on its way. That flash flood warning encompasses the same area that the tornado warning encompasses until 3:45. So what that tells us is if there is a tornado out there, it's likely going to be wrapped in heavy rain. Don't go to the window and try to see this, because you won't. The only indication that you'll have of a tornado being there is it being on top of you if it materializes. So we're continuing to watch this area downriver between Allen Park and River Rouge. It looks like the winds have subsided just a little bit, but now there's a little bit more of a sign of rotation there up around Dearborn. It's not as tightly coupled as what we saw earlier with that burst that was out of Allen Park, but we're definitely seeing a rotating thunderstorm there around Dearborn. I want to broaden it out. Sometimes you can see these patterns a little bit better further away from the on the zoom level. We're seeing less of it than we were, but nevertheless, there was some strong signals of rotation there in the central part of Wayne County here in the last 5 minutes. So if you're in Allen Park, if you're in River Rouge, if you're really anywhere downriver within this box, and we know there are a lot of people, you can tell just by looking at the roads, just by showing the lines, you can imagine how many houses are along these areas and in these neighborhoods as this storm continues to move to the northeast. There are a lot of folks in here, and that rain is starting to get heavy. I'm going to freeze this now. This 4Live radar is now showing the precipitation, and the red is the heavy rain. So if there is a tornado in this area, it is coming down with a torrential downpour, and you are likely not going to see this. So stay inside, stay away from windows. Don't try to go outside and look for it. Don't try to contact other people and ask them if they've seen it. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Get to the lowest level of your home and get to a basement and wait this thing out. So if you've been with us for the last hour, you notice the pattern here. Sometimes there's more of a signature here that we're watching. This is just on the west side of 75. You can see River Rouge there. We're going to zoom in a little bit closer. We could be seeing some area of rotation right here. We're going to query that box. Those wind speeds not as impressive as we were seeing earlier, but earlier those winds got up to 100 miles an hour, at least radar indicated winds of over 100 miles an hour, and it was a brief period of time. So these things will likely sort of spawn up and then fade away. They don't look to be long-lasting tornadoes, but they could be popping up and sort of fading and then reforming anywhere along this line. So this area definitely of concern right now. We're going to zoom in a little bit closer and show some of these areas that are around here. And you can see that's 75 right there. Service Drive, there's Schaefer Highway, there's Oakwood, just off to the north there, and there's Dix. And you can see the further north we get, definitely more of a populated area here in parts of Wayne County. So we'll zoom out just a little bit further here to show you that there's still showing signs of rotation. It's a little bit more broad here, just north of River Rouge. But the movement on this has been generally off to the north. It's really more northeast, I think, at about 10 miles an hour. So that is the path of this cell. And again, Highland Park, Ferndale, City of Detroit, we know you're going to be in the path of this. If this continues in this direction, you're not under the warning now. But if this continues moving to the north, you will be. So definitely pay attention to this storm as it continues to move to the north. Now that we're starting to move into the city of Detroit, there's definitely a lot more people that are going to be affected by this as we start watching the northern end of this tornado warning box. I'm going to take the radar off just briefly to show you it's the bright red area that we're watching. The darker red shade, that's the flash flood warning. The darker red area right now is the tornado warning, which is in effect until 1:15 tonight for central portions of Wayne County. I want to look at the latest information from the National Weather Service, which just was issued, looks like 2 minutes ago. They're most concerned with the area that was south of Dearborn or near Lincoln Park. Now they're saying that that's moving to the northeast at about 20 miles per hour. You can see Dearborn marked there on the map. They're saying that this is radar indicated rotation. That the thunderstorm will remain over areas of central Wayne County, including Melvindale, Ecorse, Allen Park, River Rouge, Lincoln Park, Southgate, Dearborn Heights, and Riverview. And they reiterate what we have been saying all night. Move to a basement or an interior room of the lowest floor of a sturdy building. Avoid windows. If you are outdoors or in a mobile home or in a vehicle, get inside immediately and move to a substantial shelter and make sure you're protected from flying debris. So those are the, that's definitely something that bears repeating as we go through a pretty intense and serious situation tonight. And the timing of the night is not good either. We're approaching 1 o'clock in the morning, where a lot of folks have already gone to bed for the night. And this really was not something that we were planning on tonight. We were really thinking that we'll be dealing with a flooding situation and more concerned with the water. And here we are with this spin up and the possibility of a tornado moving through parts of Wayne County. This is the heart of our metro zone. This is some of the most populated portions of southeast Michigan. And it's 1 o'clock in the morning and it's heavy rain. And this may be a hazard that we don't see until it's too late. So we're going to be watching this radar very intently here over the next several minutes as this storm continues to move north. Again, right there around Dearborn, that's where we were most concerned about. We can see some broad areas of rotation right now, not necessarily tight, but some broad areas of rotation here around Dearborn. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward. Otherwise, just a brief check outside of the area as we look at the entire area. Some of the heaviest rain right now, right there where we're concerned about that tornado. And again, that's not good news because it's just sort of masking any hazard that would be in effect, masking any tornado that would be out there. You get north of there, still a lot of widespread rain north of the city. But as far as what we're expecting with the biggest hazard and the most prominent pressing concern is the possibility of that tornado right now. And that is in that red box from Dearborn right now is where we're most concerned about. Dearborn, Lincoln Park area as this storm continues to move to the north. I want to freeze frame. This is the last area. Start looking at these wind speeds again. They're not as fast as what we were seeing earlier. And remember, we're looking for bright areas of red and green that are sort of butted up against each other. That would indicate winds going to and away from the radar at a very high rate of speed, and that's the rotation that we're looking at or looking for. We don't see that right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not out there. These boxes, really when you zoom in, cover a lot of real estate, and sometimes the rotation can get inside of one of these boxes that's not really being shown on radar. So we're watching this area right now that's, again, around Dearborn. You can see when we start looking at the wind speeds themselves, this is where some of the faster winds are that are going outbound from the radar. Right there, about 37 miles an hour. Definitely not the fastest ones that we've seen tonight. And then they're going inbound to the radar at about 44. But there's a lot of distance there between those fastest sort of marks. In fact, there's 4 miles. That's more of a rotating thunderstorm and not necessarily what we would see as far as the signature of a tornado. Usually we would see it much closer together. In fact, what we saw earlier where those reds and greens were bright and up against each other, we're not necessarily seeing that now, but we can't let our guard down. We've seen these things pop up quickly tonight. At least the radar indications have popped up very quickly and then sort of faded away. So got to be prepared for the worst, and again, hope for the best. So it's 1 o'clock, and we're about 15 minutes away from the end of that tornado warning. You see that bright red line? That's the northern extent of that warning right now. That's just up against Ford Road, just south of Ford Road there. 94 is sort of bisecting that warning box as everything moves to the north. We're very concerned about the northern end of that box right now, as that's where that thunderstorm that possibly has produced at least one area and maybe multiple areas of rotation over the last hour or so. Otherwise, that is the only warning besides the flash flood warning that we are concerned about right now. Just want to double check and make sure that that's all that's on our plate right now, and it is. That flash flood warning, by the way, covers a lot of ground. That is for eastern Monroe County and Wayne County until 3:45. And remember, with rain, even after the rain stops, we still could have some flooding issues as everything keeps running off and sort of moving around. So overnight, we'll be watching some of those areas, especially in the highways, especially some of the underpasses where the drainage may not be so good. That could be causing some issues tonight. But job one right now is getting rid of that tornado warning. And you see that bright red box right there in the center of your screen in one of our most populated portions of southeast Michigan. That's what the area we're concerned with right now, especially up around Dearborn. If you're in this area and you're watching this is somewhere you need to be inside, away from windows, and in the lowest portion of your home right now. All right, here's the precipitation pattern right now. And again, the heavy rain is coinciding with some of the areas where that rotation is possible, and that is not good news. That is not what we want to see, because that is just going to obscure any tornado. And of course, this time of night, darkness and the rain, don't even try to look for this thing. Just stay inside, and we will keep you updated on the position and the path of this as it continues to move to the north. So as the northern sections of Wayne County right now, we start looking at the wind pattern. We don't see anything that's really sticking out at us right now. We see some broad areas of rotation. This is where the fastest winds are that are going outbound from the radar. This is where the fastest winds are that are inbound from the radar. So if you start sort of connecting those dots, so to speak, that is what gets you that area of rotation, that counterclockwise area of rotation. Right now it's pretty broad, but it doesn't take a lot for that to tighten up and possibly spawn a funnel cloud or a tornado. We've seen that happen multiple times tonight, especially down there right before this warning was issued. We saw that 100 mile per hour indication of wind. And in fact, that's most likely what law enforcement is probably looking at right now to see whether or not that actually materialized and caused any damage. Want to check storm reports. This is over the last 6 hours, so this will take us through the extent of the storm. These are reports that have come in to the National Weather Service that they have disseminated. It looks like there is a one wind report that has been issued, an estimate of 60 miles an hour, and that's in Lincoln Park. That was one of the areas that we were concerned about with possible rotation there. As far as the water goes, this is a spotter indication, water that was a couple feet deep, and this was at the intersection of Telegraph and Eureka Roads. That report came in at 12:15, so that was a while ago, but nevertheless probably could be a little bit worse out there now that rain has continued to fall. We'll broaden it out and just see if there's any other reports in the area, and it does not look like there are right now. Of course, those two trees that you see down there, those are the ones we were concerned with earlier tonight in Lucas County when the trees got blown over and the cars got flipped. This was in Northwood in that Metro Toledo area. Cars flipped there. They didn't see a tornado. They suspected it probably was from flipping those cars. Probably not too off base with that. And here's the latest look as we pile the radar back on. You see the tornado warning still in effect, that bright red box there in Allen Park, and that is until 1:15 tonight. Now there is a severe thunderstorm warning that has just been issued. That's the orange shade, and that includes the entire city of Detroit and southern parts of Macomb County. This is in effect until 1:45. Now, this is a severe thunderstorm warning, and the reason this warning is issued is for wind speeds of up to 60 miles an hour. Even though we don't see rotation on the radar right now, we have to respect the fact that it could happen at any time. We've seen that multiple times tonight already. So in this orange shaded box, look at that. That's 1.5 million people that are under that warning until 1:45 tonight. The storm is moving to the northeast at 20 miles an hour. And of course, the same protection instructions go out for severe thunderstorms. Got to stay away from those windows. Stay away from any potential debris that could be happening from this storm as it moves off to the north and northeast. This is, again, moving through the city of Detroit. We'll show you here on the on 4 Live radar as we put the precipitation on there. There you can see some of that dark red shade that's right along 94 there, starting to move into the city. And I am going to produce from the Weather Center here. If the newsroom is listening, if you could, let's see if we can get an update from some of the law enforcement across the area about what is actually going on as far as ground truth. If we've had any reports out there of flooding, power outages, and of course whether or not any of this rotation has actually caused any damage across the area. There you see some of the heaviest rain, though, now starting to move just on the northern end of that tornado warning. Again, the warning is still, tornado warning still in effect until 1:15, even though the area that we're most concerned with has moved north, but we're keeping a close eye right here. Again, this area right now, this is along 94, 96. We're starting to get into some of the most urban parts of Detroit right now. So if you are in the city of Detroit, this is 75 and 96. See Warren, Grand Boulevard. We know there's a lot of people that live in this area. Be concerned. This is the strongest part of this storm right now. Is on top of you and starting to move to the northeast. So we'll keep an eye on that. And also the heavy rain potential is the sort of 1 and 1A stories that we're watching from the Weather Center right now. So that is the latest as this storm continues to move to the city of Detroit. Right now it's mostly light rain that's happening in the city, but don't let that fool you, because just in the west end of Detroit, that's where some of the heaviest stuff is. As we look at the wind pattern, there's still the possibility, even though we've got a severe thunderstorm warning, there's still a possibility we could be seeing rotation with this storm as it moves to the northeast. Again, we've got areas here that are moving in two different directions with respect to the radar. You got the red area where the winds are moving outbound, you get the green where it's moving inbound. So there's some broad rotation in this area, not necessarily tight, but we'll have to keep an eye on that as it moves to the northeast. Picked up a little bit of speed. Again, it's moving to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. So that red shaded area, we'll show you the warnings that are in effect right now. The bright red area, that is the tornado warning that's in effect until 1:15. The flash flood warning that's underneath that, that is in effect until 3:45 this morning. And the severe thunderstorm warning right now, which has just been issued, does include the city of Detroit. And that is going to be in effect until about, I think that one was 1:30. Get a time on that. It does extend there into Macomb County, 1:45 a.m. At 1:05 was the latest update from the Weather Service on that severe thunderstorm warning. And again, that was for 60-mile-an-hour wind gust being the primary threat. Still the possibility that this thing could rotate. We've seen it earlier tonight, so we're going to keep an eye on it. And again, that bright red shade, that tornado warning, that's still in effect for another 5 minutes. There, if you're in Dearborn, Allen Park, River Rouge, don't let your guard down just yet as this storm is continuing to move to the north and northeast. All right, here's where the latest precipitation is. This is some of the heaviest rain now is moving north of Dearborn and starting to move to the 96 corridor. And there you see it there, M5, 96, just south of the Lodge as it moves into the northern part of Wayne County. A lot of, or at least a decent amount of lightning strikes there. Haven't checked the hail in a while, and it still doesn't look like we're seeing much of anything as far as a hail potential out of this storm. Do want to check the shear. Okay, we're seeing a little bit more of a shear indication here. Those purple shaded areas are telling us that the winds are changing direction with height on either side of Dearborn right now. And we're checking also some of the reports that we're getting in Monroe. Trees and power lines down, as you can imagine, with a storm of this magnitude. Nothing serious from both Monroe County and from Dearborn. That is fantastic news, considering what we saw on radar earlier tonight. Makes me feel a little bit better, and it should make you feel a little bit better too. That we may have dodged a bullet there, at least in parts of the area, but we still have some to go as this storm continues to move to the northeast. So these areas of shear, a little bit concerning. That's where 4 live radars picked up, again, wind changing direction with height. and that is, or speed. That is something that is an ingredient in a severe thunderstorm and also potential tornadoes. So we'll have to watch that very carefully. In fact, that coincides with the area where we're seeing on the velocity scan or the wind pattern here. This area right now, we're seeing, I would say, less broad rotation than we were seeing earlier. So we've got to keep an eye on this as it moves into Detroit. We'll try to zoom in a little bit closer here and show you the area that we're concerned with. This is right at that intersection of 75, 94, 96. That's, we're keeping an eye on that. Again, this is some broad area of rotation. It's not necessarily tight. There's no tornado warning out here, but this storm has had a history of rotating, and we're going to have to keep an eye on it as it moves to the northeast. Now, as far as the rainfall amounts go, I want to keep an eye on that as well, because we're under flash flood watch, and at least that one flash flood warning, which is in effect until 3:45 this morning. What you're looking at right now are rainfall totals, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can start looking at some of the totals. At least these are radar estimates, so they're not actual measurements, but they're usually a pretty good indication of what's gone on. And that area near Taylor may have picked up upwards of 4 inches of rain there just off to the east side of Telegraph. Again, that's a radar estimate, but there's been a tremendous amount of rain with this cell as it's moved to the north. So it's definitely something that we're keeping an eye on. The rainfall totals have really slacked off north of there. We'll give you a full view of the entire area and show you. It looks like that when that storm sort of moved in from Toledo, that's where we saw that heavy rain really starting to amass right along that 75 corridor as it moves to the north. So the latest warnings, that tornado warning, still technically in effect, although it should be expiring here in about a minute as we get towards 1:15, and then we're left with a severe thunderstorm warning. That's the orange shade. And that is in effect until 1:45 tonight as that storm continues to move northeast. It's moving a little bit faster than it was earlier, 140 to the northeast at 20 miles an hour. The latest in from DTE says that there are power outages, but they are few and sporadic so far. Again, this is all good news considering how ominous that this thing has looked on radar tonight. And let's hope that these reports don't get any more serious. If there's just a few and sporadic power outages, considering what we saw, we'll deal with it. That's good enough. The tornado warning is now expired. We no longer have a tornado warning out for southeast Michigan. We're left with the severe thunderstorm warning, which is in effect for the city of Detroit, southern end of Macomb County, a very densely populated portion of southeast Michigan. You can tell 1.5 million people just within that orange box. So this is going to be affecting a lot of folks across southeast Michigan. And that dark red shade that you see that's underneath that, that's the flash flood warning. That affects 2 million people for eastern Monroe and Wayne counties. And that is until 3:45 tonight. Even though we expect that the rain is going to start ending here shortly, we're still going to see some flooding potential as the runoff continues and that water starts moving from some areas to others through the nighttime hours. And that's why that flash flood warning is in effect until 3:45 overnight tonight. So let's give you the lay of the land here. We'll sort of reset the scene. It is 1:16 in the morning, and on the broad scale, you can see the swirl. But also remember, we've got a low pressure center that's at the surface. So that's what's accounting for that broad area of rotation that's almost sort of area wide. You see everything sort of swirling in a counterclockwise direction. That's the low pressure center that's almost on top of us right now. And as that thing, that low is, I think it's somewhere in this vicinity right now. As that sort of pulls off to the northeast here in the overnight, that will eventually end our rain chances and allow us to dry out. Of course, this has been much needed rain. This is a situation where, you're you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. We can't seem to get right in the middle of this and get a healthy amount of rain without the dark side of these storms. But nevertheless, you take what you get, especially in a situation like this. And we're continuing to watch this potential severe thunderstorm as this moves to the northeast. So it is, again, it's 1:17. This is the time of the night where there's definitely a lot of folks in bed already. Hopefully, with what's gone on in the last hour, this has alerted everybody in the path of this storm. This is not your garden variety thunderstorm. And hopefully everybody within this severe thunderstorm warning area has gotten out of bed and realizes that we need to sort of keep an eye on this as it moves to the north. You'll excuse me if I take a drink here. It has been a long night so far. The voice is starting to give out. So this is what we're dealing with tonight. Haven't had any serious reports of injuries or damage. In fact, no injuries and no serious damage. Just some trees and power lines. That's it so far. And if that is the worst we have to deal with, so be it. Considering we saw wind speeds of 100 miles per hour plus show up on radar, I'd say that's okay. But again, you know, we're at 1 o'clock in the morning. We've had a lot of heavy rain. It's dark. Some of the worst of this storm happened over rural areas, so we may not know the extent of this for a while. So we're going to have to just sort of wait it out and see what Mother Nature has done in the central and southern part of the viewing area. Let's keep an eye on that radar, though, as some of that heavy rain right now is starting to roll onto our angled freeways there, the Lodge, Grand River, Woodward Avenue towards 75 in the northern sections of Wayne County, and starting to move into southern Wayne County too. City of Southfield, you're going to be getting some of this heavy rain here in the not too distant future. As far as how much we've picked up, we showed you some of that area around Taylor where we suspected there was probably as much as 2+ inches. I want to switch back to a different color scheme here so you can see a little bit more of a gradient on these areas. That's what we've seen. That's been some of the heaviest rain. And of course that bullseye was right there around Taylor. And you get a little bit further north of that, even though radar suggesting maybe as much as 4 inches of rain, you get north of there, it looks like it doesn't decrease all that much. Right around Inkster, maybe as much as 2 inches. Dearborn about 1.5 inches. And of course, it's still coming down. Even though, well, there it's ended, but the heavier stuff has meandered north of 96 now and is continuing off to the north. So haven't seen a lot of lightning, haven't seen much in the way of a hail signature on 4Live radar. The shear is definitely there. There's some rotation with this storm as far as broad scale. We're not seeing any more of the tight rotation that would indicate funnel clouds or tornadoes as of right now. But of course, with the history the storm has had, we're definitely going to watch it as it progresses through the northern sections of Wayne County and Monroe County. So here's where the warnings are right now. The orange shade, that is the severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect until 1:45 tonight. And of course, the darker red shade, that's the flash flood warning, which is in effect until 3:45 tonight. So the latest from the National Weather Service, this was just issued within the last 60 seconds. A severe thunderstorm located near Detroit, near downtown Detroit, and in moving to the northeast at 20 miles an hour. Of course, they're most concerned about 60-mile-per-hour winds. In other locations that will be impacted by this include pretty much everybody in the east side. Highland Park, Roseville, Fraser, East Point, Northeast Detroit, Harper Woods, Grosse Pointe Shores, Centerline, Hamtramck, and Grosse Pointe Woods. So, of course, there's a lot of areas there along the lakeshore, a lot of highly populated areas. That's where this severe thunderstorm is heading next. And thank goodness we don't see anything as far as rotation on this storm, at least tight stuff. You can see where those bright greens are right there. But that is that's sort of what we call a mesoscale rotation. Usually severe thunderstorms do rotate, but they do it on a scale about this size, which is sort of what we're seeing right now. When we start looking at tornadoes and funnel clouds, they're rotating on a much smaller scale, just a few of those boxes that we see when we zoom in pretty tight on the radar. We are not seeing that right now, thank goodness. This is likely just some straight line winds, but still enough to cause damage, still enough to bring down trees and power lines, cause some damage to roofs as it continues to move to the northeast. It's moving at about 20 miles per hour. That was the latest wind speed on this. And if we sort of take this area and move it north at about 20, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, and we start moving that to the northeast at about 20 miles an hour. This is the area that we suspect is going to be most impacted by this. If it holds together, Warren, you'll see the worst of it at about 141. Roseville at about 148 this morning. Sterling Heights close to 2 o'clock in the morning. Mount Clemens, if it's still around, we're looking at about 210, and Waldenburg at about 217 this morning. And again, it's a severe thunderstorm warning that we're watching right now. I'll take the radar off so we can see the exact box there. And that is up through the southern end of Macomb County. The dark red, that's a flash flood warning. That is not a tornado warning. So just don't want anybody to be confused by that. It's a flash flood warning, and that's in effect until 3:45. Of course, we showed you that area where we were concerned around Taylor. At least the radar is estimated almost 4 inches of rain has fallen there. So we'll continue to watch that. We know there's a lot of construction going on some of these highways too. So that could affect drainage in some areas of Metro Detroit. Of course, this area has a lot of the concrete that we see as far as roadways go in this part of the area. So if there's going to be an area where flooding is most of a concern, it's probably going to be right here. Some of that heaviest rain moves through. Here's a live look at 4 live radar right now. And over the last hour, you can see how that storm is sort of meandered a little bit further to the north. So some of these areas downriver now, you're starting to dry out almost completely. There's not a lot south of this. When you start looking down into northern parts of Ohio, it's completely dry there. Just some lighter rain in the southern part in our south zone right now. And then you start looking at the city, and that's where the heaviest stuff is. And of course, this bears repeating. When you look at the larger scale, yes, you see everything swirling counterclockwise. That is more from the low pressure center, which is sitting on top of us somewhere in this vicinity right now. That is sort of the synoptic scale, the large scale rotation. And usually that's not indicative of severe weather. When you start seeing the swirls down a little bit lower, that's when we get more concerned. And that's what we were watching earlier tonight. Still seeing a mesoscale rotation, sort of a medium scale, if you will, across the city. And that's with that severe thunderstorm. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But as far as reports go, we don't have any additional reports that we have seen within the last 20 minutes or so, just those 2 that we showed you earlier with a 60-mile-an-hour gust, and I think that was estimated. Yeah, it was estimated. That was in Lincoln Park, and the heavy rain there. And here was the report of flooding. And again, this was at 12:15 in the morning, so this was over an hour ago, and that was at Telegraph and Eureka. Water a couple feet deep there, and we start looking at where the heaviest of the rain has fallen tonight. Well, that's right there. That's almost at that bullseye of 3+ inches, which the radar is estimated fell in that area, almost 4 inches of rain. So quite a deluge there. The rainfall amount's a lot lower, but we're continuing to add to those in the city and the southern part of Oakland and Macomb County right now. Okay. So we're going to reset the scene here as we approach 1:30 in the morning. The warnings that are still in effect are the severe thunderstorm warning for the southern end of Macomb County and the northern section, a good chunk of Detroit, and a lot of those areas that are on the east side close to the lake shore, on the east side of 94. As you work your way up towards Mount Clemens, you're all going to be affected by this storm as it moves to the northeast. And again, even though there's not a tornado warning, the storm has a history of rotation, at least on radar. So we have to be very respectful of its potential as it makes its way up the east side. Hopefully this is going to be a lot of heavy rain. Hopefully it's going to be enough to help us out in the drought department without causing flooding issues. But you can see from the colors that are showing there on 4 live radar, it's some pretty intense rain. I want to pause that and look at the rainfall rates on some of that which is in the city of Detroit. Now keep in mind, this is not sitting over the same area for any length of time. This is moving, but the rainfall rates right now are falling at 2 inches an hour for that stretch that's right there between Woodward and 75, Midtown, and in some of the areas in the northern section of Detroit, starting to get towards Palmer Park up there. That's where some of that heavier rain is falling as we speak. Now the loop shows you, okay, it's not going to sit over your area for too much of an extended length of time, so you're not going to get 2 inches of rain out of that, but it's definitely coming down fast and furious right now along Woodward and 75, the north end of Detroit and up towards Ferndale. So as we go a little bit further north into Oakland County, you are not under a warning as we speak, but if you're along 696, Southfield, starting to get into the Farmington Hills area, that's where some of the heavier rain is starting to move. The Woodward corridor, Berkeley, Royal Oak, Ferndale, you're going to be seeing some of that heavier rain before too long. As you can see that sort of climbing up Woodward and 75 there in that southeast corner of Oakland County. Macomb County, you're still technically under that warning. We'll show you that box again. That extends up to Warren and Sterling Heights and southern end of Mount Clemens, and that's until 1:45 in the morning. And the storm motion on this, again, is to the northeast at about 25, or 20 miles an hour, I should say. So as you look at that, one thing we haven't done here in a while, I want to look at 4Live Radar's tracks. This is where the radar sort of looks at the center of each storm, does some mathematical calculations, and sort of makes a prediction on what it thinks some of the biggest hazards are within this storm. And notice that it is showing a mesocyclone. So what that means is it is showing broader scale rotation, not the tight stuff, not the very small, violent rotation that would cause the tornado, but still some storm scale rotation, but it is at an impact of 1, so that's good news. You can see the areas that it's concerned with there. I want to move a little bit further to the north. There's another area. This is up north of Waterford, out towards Auburn Hills. Possibility of some hail there, although we look at what's going on right now, and it doesn't look like anything as far as hail goes. In fact, the hail potential across the area has been pretty low. I haven't seen very much, if any, of that. If we start looking at that shear again, it looks like there's still some indication right where we see that storm scale rotation again, and this is going to be right along Woodward, right between Woodward and 75. Midtown, downtown, medical school area. That's where we're seeing some of the heavier rain too, which actually has moved just off to the east of 75. Starting to move to the east side of Detroit now, and also moving to the northeast. The area of heavy rain isn't encompassing a large chunk of real estate. It's kind of a narrow path, and it is moving. It's not sitting over the same areas, which is good. But some of the areas that have not seen the downpours so far, maybe just some moderate rain here in southern end of Macomb County, you expect to see a little bit more as this area starts to move to the north here over the next 20 minutes. You'll excuse me, I'm trying to finish that water. Okay, so here we are in 4Live Radar, and that's pretty much the only area of concern that we have right now, is that severe thunderstorm that's over the city of Detroit and now starting to move into the southern end of Macomb County right now. The flash flood warning still in effect until 3:45. That's the darker red shade. There's definitely more folks affected by that. Most of Wayne County, and I'd say about half of Monroe County, eastern half of Monroe County, is under that warning. So if we look at the time on that, that's until 3:45. Haven't put out an update on that since it was issued just after 12:45. I'm going to check the latest update on that severe thunderstorm warning. That latest was issued at 1:20, and we read that to you, which is no change. And essentially in that warning, it's still moving to the northeast at about 20 miles an hour. 60 mile an hour wind gusts will be the biggest threat with this storm. So the good news is we got a lot of rain. The bad news is some of us had to go through some pretty white knuckle parts of this storm as it especially rolled through Monroe County earlier tonight. And even though we're not completely done, we're definitely seeing a little bit of a weakening in the wind field as this moves to the north. And that's sort of dragging a lot of the heavier rain with it. As I simultaneously watch the radar, I'm trying to do a little bit of analysis too on the surface pattern. I want to find out exactly where that low is sitting right now. And it looks like it's probably on top of Detroit, maybe a little bit further north of there. When you look at the larger scale, and you sort of see that swirl, again, that's the synoptic low. That's the larger scale low, and that's most likely somewhere in that vicinity right now. So that's what's driving this entire thing. And as this continues to move in this direction overnight, it's going to take the water with it, and we'll eventually be out of the woods here in the not too distant future as that cell moves to the north. I want to keep an eye on what's going on, even though we've got that severe thunderstorm warning. Again, this storm has had a history of showing some rotation, so we're going to keep a close eye on what's going on here in the city of Detroit. And again, we're starting to see a little bit more of a wind field here. It looks like the rotation's getting a little bit smaller in this area of the city. You see some of the faster winds here that are going outbound, inbound here. So we've got put a measurement on here. It's about 2 miles. So it's starting to get a smaller area of rotation. We'll keep an eye on that as it moves to the north. Looking at that shear measurement, this is going to lag the radar a little bit. That radar updates almost every minute in a severe thunderstorm situation. The shear product does not. It usually takes about 5 to 7. So this is lagging the radar a little bit, but you can see that that's where 4 live radar is showing that there is some shear in there too, which means wind changing direction with height. And that's one of the ingredients that we look at in a severe thunderstorm and tornado situation. Again, there is no tornado warning out there, but a severe thunderstorm can spawn a tornado at any time. Sometimes it just sounds like that's a boilerplate phrase that meteorologists use. But there's a reason we say that, and tonight is a perfect example. That these could spin up and spawn at any time. So we're watching this area right now, north of 94 in the city of Detroit. Let's start looking at some of these roads and neighborhoods that are in here. Show you some of the other areas. There's McNichols. You can see there's M3 right there, and Chalmers, Harper. We look a little bit closer in here, and that's the airport there, City Airport, Coleman A. Young Municipal. So right around City Airport right now, we've sort of got our eyes trained. Again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning situation, but we're keeping a very close eye on the wind field as this storm has had the potential of showing rotation on radar so far. We have not had any reports in Michigan of a tornado. However, just south of here in Lucas County and Toledo, in fact, I'll back up and show you those warnings. It's not too much further south. We had that earlier tonight. I'll show you 2 of those in case you're just joining us. This is the area that we had cars flipped over. This was 10:15. They say it was possible tornado damage. There was no warning issued on that storm at the time, but the National Weather Service in White Lake, which is responsible for Michigan, was keeping an eye on that. So as soon as that thunderstorm entered Monroe County and started showing signs of rotation on radar, well, that's what prompted the tornado warning that showed up in Monroe County earlier tonight. So let's keep an eye on Detroit. We know as this storm moves off to the northeast, there are a lot of people in the city that are keeping an eye on this late at night as it starts to move up towards the Macomb County line. So this is that strongest portion of the storm that we're watching. You can see those bright red areas right there. Even though those wind speeds aren't, I'd say they're not all that impressive right now, that's that general area of rotation. It's sort of on a wider scale right now, a mesoscale and a storm scale rotation. We're just going to keep an eye on that as it heads to the northeast. Hopefully this thing makes it out of the lake, and that is about it. got more water than I can handle. I just don't have time to drink it. So we're continuing to watch this as it moves to the northeast right now. And the extent, I want to show you the extent of that severe thunderstorm warning. That line goes just up to Mount Clemens, southern end of the city there, and up towards, you can see Selfridge is right there. So it's just south of there where the extent of that severe thunderstorm warning is. Hopefully this thing will dissipate or maybe run out over the lake at that point. We won't have to worry about it much longer, but as of right now, that's what we're looking at. Some of the heaviest rain is starting to fall a little bit further north now, across the northern part of Detroit. Okay, I want to show you some of the rainfall rates too, because again, the entire, or I should say the majority of the area is under a flash flood watch until 4 a.m. because of the amount of rain that we're expecting. So even if the tornado threat does diminish, we still got to pay very close attention to the amount of rain that's out there. 3 inches an hour right now is the rate on that. And again, that's if that stayed static and didn't move for an hour. That's what you would get out of it. But it is moving. It's moving to the north and northeast at about 20 miles per hour. So we're not going to see 3 inches of rain out of that there, but it's definitely coming down at a heavy rate, torrential downpour there as it moves to the northeast. Thank goodness there are not a lot of folks on the roads this time of night, but I hope that they all know what's going on and are paying attention to the weather situation. Would hate for something bad to happen on the roads because people weren't paying attention to the weather information, especially in that northern section of Detroit heading into Wayne County. So Gratiot, Groesbeck up there towards 696 and 75. That's where the center of this cell, the strongest portion of it, is heading here over the next 15 to 20 minutes. So there's the big picture. And again, we don't see anything that's really standing out as far as a funnel cloud or tornado signature on this. It's just sort of a broader storm scale rotation, which we typically see with severe thunderstorms. They do rotate on a larger scale, and that's something that we would expect to see, but we don't have any indication right now that there's anything smaller going on across the area. So this severe thunderstorm warning does remain in effect until 1:45, and I think that is about it. They may have, until 1:45 tonight. And once that expires, we will start watching with particular close attention the amount of rainfall that's falling through the area. Otherwise, that's pretty much the end of the rain too. Once that cell clears Detroit, there's not much left on the southern end of this as far as rainfall goes. It looks like there's a line trying to develop right there closer to 275. See right there on the east end of Milan, heading out further to the northeast. But as far as the widespread heavy stuff goes, there's not a lot south of Detroit. So once that severe thunderstorm closes up shop, hopefully we'll be out of the woods as far as the rough stuff goes, and we can just worry about getting the rest of this rain out of here. Of course, after we get a good, healthy amount, I know a lot of us need it, want it, and we're getting it, just getting a little bit more than we can handle with this cell in this system tonight. I know that we haven't talked a lot about the folks in the North Zone, and you definitely have been seeing your share of rain, but thank goodness you haven't seen the severe stuff that a lot of us have been dealing with in the Metro Zone tonight. And so it continues to rain there in Sand Lac, St. Clair County, south of 696, right along M59. You're getting plenty of rain there, and very few, if any, lightning strikes. So that's kind of the best situation. We sort of hoped that's what would have been the case for the rest of us, and we didn't have to deal with this, but we did. And this is what's left of that severe thunderstorm right now as it rolls it through Detroit. Take another quick check of the wind pattern, and again, we're not seeing anything that's concerning as far as the wind field goes, which is good. And if we start looking even at the wind speeds themselves, just the actual speeds are only about 20 miles an hour there, probably a little bit faster closer to the ground. Doesn't look like anything of huge concern there right now. We've got about 4 minutes left on that severe thunderstorm warning as it continues to roll up the east side, and then that will be it for that. The flash flood warning, which is the dark red shade, that's going to remain in effect until 3:45. And you're probably thinking, well, come on, you just showed me that the rain is done. Why is this warning in effect for another 2 hours? Well, in a rain situation, even after the rain stops falling, there's a lot of runoff that takes place, especially in a situation like this. You've got a lot of concrete. It's a very urban area, so this water is going to run off. It's not just going to soak into the ground. Plus, we're under an abnormally dry situation in this area and moderate drought in others, where that ground is very hard and is not going to soak up that rain immediately. So that's going to exacerbate the runoff in some cases. So that's why that warning extends another 2 hours beyond where we're at now. And we're just counting down the time on this severe thunderstorm warning. And once that expires, hopefully we can breathe a little bit easier. But there's still some pockets of heavy rain here. And again, I'll freeze this in the last frame, and you can see this almost like a wall here, where the precipitation just sort of shuts off. And I suspect that that's around the center of the low, the larger low pressure center that we've been tracking from the Tennessee Valley here about 24, 48 hours ago, that's moved into the area. That's sort of the driving force at the larger scale for this entire system. So that low has to sort of drag itself out off to the northeast here. And once it does, that'll end our rain chances overnight. A lot of us have picked up some beneficial rain. There is no doubt about that. It's just to deal with a lot of headaches along the way to get there. I want to quickly pull away from the radar and show you some of the rainfall totals. Now, these are just the airports. These are just the automated reporting sites in southeast Michigan. And you can see there, Metro Airport, 2.09 inches. That's a good amount of rain. Now, that 1800s down in Monroe, I suspect, is probably not accurate. They may have had a communication failure, or the instrumentation may have gone down, because that's where the core of that possibly tornadic storm rolled through. And the other thing to consider too is these are 24-hour totals, and since we passed midnight, some of these may have reset and others may have not. So not exactly the most accurate. This rainfall estimate from the radar is most accurate, especially that area in Wayne County. You can see those green shades. That's exactly what we have been watching for that heavy rain. And that spot around Taylor, that yellow area, bullseye there, that's where we saw, or at least estimated, upwards of 4 inches of rain fell in a pretty short amount of time. So we're keeping an eye now on that last severe thunderstorm as it rotates through the city of Detroit and the southern end of Macomb County. No reports of any injuries or damage. Some trees and power lines have been reported across the area. Sporadic is how a lot of the law enforcement has been reporting to the newsroom as far as the damage goes there. So that is all good news so far. Just a minimal amount of impact. Although, man, this was definitely a headache watching this stuff on radar, because there were some times where that was showing at least 100 mile per hour winds that the radar was picking up within that cell. So this is the last of it. And again, we're seeing reds and greens on radar. That's not necessarily bad. There's a little bit of a gap in between where the faster winds are, but the winds are not all that fast. And they're not exactly what we call tightly coupled. We're not seeing those red and green boxes smashed right up against each other. So that's all good news. But as far as where the rain is right now, that's the heaviest of the rains, just starting to roll into the southern end of Macomb County. So you're really getting the downpours right there around Warren, East Point, and down towards the southern end of Monroe County, where some of that heavier rain is falling. So we're at 146 right now. That severe thunderstorm warning has now expired. So the only thing that remains on our plate is this flash flood warning. That is in effect right now until 345 this morning for almost all of Wayne County and eastern Monroe County. And of course, it's really prompted by that 3-inch plus rainfall estimate from Doppler radar earlier tonight. As far as the rainfall goes, as the core of this low pulls out, that's where we're seeing the heaviest of that rain is sort of right wrapped around that low, which we suspect is probably somewhere around the city right now. So as that exits in the next hour or two, that'll end our rain chances. And hopefully this is the end of the rough stuff. We've been talking to you now for well over an hour, and been white-knuckled right along with you as this storm has made its way from the state line through Monroe County and through the city of Detroit, and is now hopefully losing a little bit of its punch as it moves to the north. So we are going to sign off here. We're going to continue to monitor this off air and of course online at clickondetroit.com, on our social media platforms as well. And as the situation starts to improve, if you have damage that's in your area, and you can tell us about it, social media, Storm Pins, the best way to get us that. If you have pictures and video, we would love to see that. But again, make sure you're in a safe situation, make sure the storm is passed before you start sending us any video. We don't want you doing that in the middle of a severe thunderstorm. So that's the situation as we approach 2 o'clock in the morning. We'll stay on top of this with updates as needed. And of course, Brandon Rue and Kim DeGiulio will have the latest for you on Local 4 News today, starting at 4:30 this morning.
Camera.